And we are rolling. How's it going, Aman?
Hey Shivam, long time, long time. Wrong time, I would say, not long time. We're all stuck at home, prisoners of circumstance, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Go Corona, go.
Fucking go
Where's your
Corona.
thali? Where's your thali? Do you have like a thali to bang and scare the virus into submission?
No, no,
Or like
no.
a masha?
No, no. It's the other way around here. Here you have to you have to show that you don't give a shit by not wearing a mask.
Oh
So
dear
like,
Lord.
now it's a thing. Like people are like, fuck you, I'm not wearing a mask in public. And like nobody wears like there are a bunch of people, like one of my friends, he doesn't wear a mask in public.
Right.
But
The
then he feels
perfect democracy, right?
yeah. This is
The
America.
perfect democracy. It's America.
Yeah.
I have the freedom to die.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But the only problem is
Here
though
you
there's
have people wearing their mask below the nose, Shivam. I think it's like a hipster thing, like maybe something they saw in a video game, like a ninja or
yeah.
something. I'm like, you do realize that it's a droplet virus. It can enter through your nose, right? Unless your nose is like Michael Jackson's nose, in which case nothing can enter or exit. What's happening out there?
Do you see
What's with wearing your mask like this? Why?
No, I have no
You know
idea.
you have a great nose, but cover your damn face. Come
No,
on.
have you
now.
seen those
Yeah.
videos with these people like eating in public, and the thing is they made a small slit on their mask, and I'm sure it's a joke. It's got to be a joke. There's no way that that's like actually fucking happening, man.
Like a zipper or something. You just sort of unzip yourself and sort of
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, since you stayed in Singapore for a bit, you know that Asians, like especially Southeast Asians, are very fucking particular about their diseases.
Extremely.
They're so on it that it's not even funny, man. So like all my Asian friends are super particular about like I have a mask, they'll be like, no, this mask does not work. You need to get the heavy duty mask. I'm going to send you a link.
The N95, that's the one.
Yeah,
right?
like versions of that. Like they have a different version of that and things like that. So they're very, very particular, man.
Darth Vader would be proud, right? For the kind of times we're living in, right?
Yeah.
Or Bane. You think darkness is your ally?
Yeah, man. I think that's what it's going to be, because apparently now these gyms are asking you to wear a mask when you go in. So they will.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be hard on guys like me with facial hair. As it is, we sweat behind that mask. It's not going to be easy, man. Hitting the treadmill, etc. That's going to be a nightmare. So
yeah, exactly. It's going to be a real pain in the ass. But I'm actually happy that gyms are opening. It's not been open for like 5 months, dude. Imagine what that does, dude. If you've got a routine, which is like you're working out for a bit, how like just that stopped. And people are getting out.
You know what it's called, right?
What?
There's a word for that. It's called obesity. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's
it. You start going to the gym, suddenly you're like, oh, these shorts are something I'm never going to get out of. It's like my handcuff now because the pants don't fit.
Yeah, man, exactly.
The attitude doesn't fit. Nothing fits.
Yeah, man. Like I know people who put on like at least like 5 kgs. They're looking different. They're fat as fuck. They're kind of depressed.
Yeah.
You never know, man. It's some crazy shit. And I guess that's half the reason why people are so pissed off,
Well, I think people are also pissed off because their rituals have been taken away from them.
Yeah, man.
The Kamwali bais and your chauffeurs and your staff has been sort of plucked out of your life. And, I mean, it's unfortunate for them as well because, for them, it's really salary to salary, the kind of, meager incomes that they make.
Yeah.
So my maid called me up today. She's like, "Bhaiya ji, kaise hain?" I said, "Zinda hai."
Yeah.
Filhal to zinda hai. Nowadays, that's what you say.
Yeah.
Or you say what Gaitonde Bhau says in Sacred Games.
What does he say about?
Jab tak ye khel khatam nahi hota, apni dari chair.
Yeah, man. I think it's a lot of people actually are like, oh my god, my bai is not here anymore and things like that. Like that's like that's what they're fucking bugging about. Like, oh shit, dude, I have to clean all my fucking pots and pans by myself. I understand, man. It's a pain in the ass, but
that's life, man. You get with the program. It's called adulthood.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta. People ask me sometimes. I have very young clients. They're like, "What is adulthood all about?" I have 2 words for them. I'm like, paying bills. That's all it is. Yeah, you pay one bill, the other one's there knocking at your door. Hey, remember me?
But it's also the class system, man. It's also our class system. We have we have a system where people are allowed to be at a certain level where it's completely accepted that you're going to have someone clean up after you for a really low wage. And it's not just like a fucking upper middle class thing or a super high class thing. It's like everyone. And I mean, I the only time I actually realized that was when I moved here, and I realized that no one really
Hmm.
has that kind of like, because no one has that kind of energy to put into you, because you can't pay them that much, because everyone expects an equal wage. And
That's right.
that's when I
A
realized.
competitive,
Sorry.
a competitive wage.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's when I realized, shit, man. Like, some of the systems that we have in place in India are really exploitative if you actually think about it. If you
Well, they are, and that's because I mean, they say, right, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it is perhaps commercially viable, or what would you say, economically viable for people to keep the poor exactly where you know,
yeah,
where they started off
yeah,
at, because if the poor people start competing at an even ground,
yeah,
a lot of these rich, entitled kids, who are just bumming around and playing PUBG all day,
yeah,
suddenly they realize they're not as smart as they thought they were.
yeah.
And you know what the difference between being heralded as smart by your mother
Hmm.
and being celebrated as smart by your university? These are
Ooh.
two very different things, because your parents might overestimate your intelligence
Hmm.
because of their love for you, but the real world is a lot more cutthroat and unforgiving
Hmm.
and unrelenting, and that's what it is.
Yeah, man.
Um,
And sometimes,
so these poor kids, Shivam, if they start competing with the rich kids at an even footing, you'd be surprised. Just because they don't have
ooh,
money, it doesn't mean they're not smart.
no, they're not.
It doesn't mean they're not resourceful, and it doesn't mean they don't have an appetite for knowledge.
Oh, no, man.
They're out there. They will pounce on the first
Oh,
opportunity
man.
they get because they're hungry for it. And that's where it
Yeah,
begins.
man, and they need good examples around them. If they have good examples around them in their community and things like that, they know what they have to do. It's hard to just figure out what you have to do if you're the first one, right? But post that.
Well, that's true.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said that's true. I agree. But you know what also happens, Shivam, is good role models are seldom found within your family. For a
That's
lot of
true, man.
people, that would be the truth. I mean, if you ask anyone in their early teens or even early 20s, do you want to grow up and be like your dad?
Yeah.
A lot of people would say no. Or do you want to be like mom? They say probably not.
Hmm.
So good role models are often found in the strangest of places, and
Yeah.
in a place like India, if you're an athlete of some kind or an actor
Yeah.
or even a damn politician, automatically you're seen as an extension, of that kind of dream, that kind of aspiration that people have towards you. Like if you're an actress, apparently in India, you're also a role model, not just an entertainer,
Yeah.
which I find ridiculous. I find that ridiculous because if you're a paid entertainer, then you do then no one really cares about your political rhetoric. You dance and sing, you do your job, go home.
Hmm.
But in India, there are a lot of misguide. Like this entire process of seeking mentorship is also, I feel, sometimes very misguided and deliberately kept very, very difficult.
Hmm.
Like very
Yeah.
rarely would you find a teacher at school being a mentor, and professionally, because it's how cutthroat
It's
it is, you may
yeah.
not even find a mentor there.
Yeah, mentorship's a
So
weird
you could,
thing, man, because all the mentors that I had to kind of pick up on, I kind of had to figure out how to get them to mentor me, because most of the mentors that I spoke to, they were actually inclined to mentor me, so they wanted to do it.
Mhm.
And I think there's
Yeah, they wanted to share. They wanted to share with you.
yeah, but and also there's a age, I think, that men get at. I think post 50, between 50 to
Hmm.
like their late 50s, is when I've seen most people being open to mentor other guys. I don't know why, but that's a thing, guys and women.
Well,
But
I suppose by that age they've kind of built their castles and bought the big car and sort of
hmm,
put down the FD and
also I think there's
sort of.
also I think they experience some kind of need or want to give back. I don't know if it's like a biological thing. I don't know if everyone goes through it, but it's something that I've definitely seen. Like guys who are between that age, they'll be more like, hey man, like if I reach out to a guy in his mid 30s, I'll be like, you know what, bro, I would love some information. Nobody's going to say no. They're going to say yes, they are
Mhm.
going to give me help, but they won't like sit and advise me as if they're advising someone, like, in a certain way, which is actually
Yeah,
a
well,
beautiful experience. Do you have any mentors, man?
I've had many mentors. But the way I see it, you kind of have to seek them out,
Yeah.
and you kind of gotta. It's like good chemistry, you know.
Hmm.
You gotta seek them out, and they gotta sort of see value in giving you something,
Yeah,
because at
definitely.
the end, I think it's a part of their legacy as well that lives through you, and they see that
Hmm.
they want to nurture that, especially if you come across as someone who's willing to learn and grow and sort of keep up with
Yeah.
new things. I had a very good mentor in Ashok Miranda in Singapore, who was my first boss.
Hmm.
I had another excellent mentor in Abid Hussain, who
Hmm.
was a dear friend. Another one in Vikram Channa, who I worked with
Hmm.
at Discovery Channel. Nice guys, elder to me,
Yeah.
a lot of wisdom to, and very generous, very intelligent, very resourceful, and very kind.
Hmm.
Uh, so which taught me something about the fact that just because you've climbed up the rungs of the organizational ladder and you're at the top, it doesn't mean you forget that you started somewhere at the bottom, and you kind of give back and
Hmm.
really nurture talent, sort of give people something to remember you by.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, I probably had nothing to give back to them except my prayers and good wishes and gratitude.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I've had good, yes, absolutely,
Yeah, you
and
want.
it was required.
Sorry about that,
Hmm.
man. This Skype is a fucking. This Sorry about that. This Skype is a really annoying medium to have a conversation with, because you end up like
I know
cutting each
I've
other
known
off.
you for I've known you for like 12 years, bro. We've been cutting each other back then as well.
Yeah, dude. No, I'm perfectly fine with it. Sometimes, like I just wanted to set that precedent. But yeah, dude. Has this ever happened to you where you've had a mentor, but they're not exactly a mentor? You just like their skills, but they're not exactly a mentor.
Yeah, so many
What is
times.
that? Like, there's a
Sometimes
differentiation
you
there.
sometimes you even learn sometimes you even learn from people, Shivam, who you don't like.
Yeah, man.
That is, I think, another strange thing. But that again depends on your appetite for. It's like if you're really hungry, I even give you a cube of cheese, you'll eat it, and that'll be the most delicious meal you've ever had. You
Hmm.
won't be specific about whether I want a pizza or I want to have a biryani or a piece of fried chicken.
Yeah.
You say, I've been starving for 3 days. As there's this
Feed
piece
me,
of
babe.
stale cheese.
Hmm.
It's 2 months past its expiry. Maybe it's going to taste a little funky, but it's something.
Yeah.
It's food. You'll eat it, and that'll taste like nectar to you.
Hmm.
So similarly, that thirst for knowledge is something that no one can teach you how to have. If you're interested in doing exciting things, you will find people who want to teach you exciting things. If you seek with a certain sense of honesty, with that towards that pursuit, good things can happen. Good people can
Hmm.
sort of enter your life.
Yeah, dude.
There are kind people and jerks in every organization and industry
Ooh.
and family
Ooh,
everywhere.
yeah, man.
There's no exception. Even when we were in college, you can probably think of people. When we were in Flame
Yeah.
University, some people are very kind-hearted,
Hmm.
and some people just obnoxious and obtuse and
But here's
sharp for the
but
sake
here's
of
the
sharp.
interesting thing, which is something about human nature, which always which always makes me go wow, because these
Hmm.
people who most regard as like jerks, jackasses, like absolute idiots, buffoons, all kinds of
Hmm.
things in their head, they're right. So in their mind, they are the
Yeah,
best versions of themselves. There's no other way that they would justify acting the way they do. And
true.
that is,
They've been led to believe that they are basically farting rainbows. You know what I mean?
yeah, man.
That's what they're led to believe.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, at one level everyone has consensus on that, but
Hmm.
as a race, the way our minds are designed, we've been designed to think we are the the best of the best, whoever we are. Like, that's how most.
Cream of the crop.
Yeah, in fact, if you thought that you aren't the best, it would drive you down a very vicious road of depression, and like completely ruin you in different ways. But it's also important to feel weak, I think, like, and so that you can kind of get strong from there. And mentors really
Yeah.
help you do that, man. Mentors actually show you, guide you, kind of gently tell you, man, this is where you're not strong. This is where. And I've had so many mentors that have actually, like, one mentor which I have, and I don't know if you share, but is General Mehta. I've been trying to get him to have a conversation with me on this thing, but he's like, I'm sorry.
He's a good man.
He's an
General
awesome guy,
Saab
man. And
I like him.
so
I like him.
and t- one thing which I didn't learn so much about what he told me, man. That's the thing. I never learned so much from what he said. I never learned something like much from all that stuff. I learned from his actions, man. I learned from like him waking up at 4 in the morning for a project that all of us were waking up at like 8 for. Like that's the shit that I learned from mostly. And that's so
Well, he
powerful.
is an army man.
He is an army
He's an
man.
army man.
And
So you have that discipline and that candor
yeah,
and that kind of rigor, which is you know, the pride of the army. You
absolutely.
know, they don't mess
They
around.
don't. And there's a
But really,
yeah, sorry.
sorry, I was saying that it's really about the narratives you spin in your mind that sort of give you
Hmm.
sort of a focus in your life. So
Hmm.
if there's a narrative in your mind that you're spinning about being a loser,
Hmm.
then every decision you take will be one to support the narrative of a loser. And if you decide that, you know, I can do a lot better, I can work harder, I can, you know, take better care of myself, my body, my network, I can grow professionally, grow new skills. If that is what you honestly believe, your efforts and your choices will support that kind of behavior. So in a sense, what you said earlier, what I found so interesting, is that people who might behave like jerks, in their minds they are right, because they feel like they're infallible. They feel like they can't be touched. Probably because they've been conditioned to
Hmm.
think that way.
Yeah.
Every time they do something, it was applauded, or worse, it was overlooked.
Yeah.
A parent's job is a lot more than just, you know, driving you up for your tennis practice and making sure your maths homework is done,
Hmm.
that you've eaten your breakfast and, you know,
Yeah.
had your calcium
Yeah.
supplements. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
It's about really teaching you how to be a functional member of
Hmm.
society that contributes, but also learns,
Yeah.
but also shares, but also profits
Yeah.
in a healthy way. So it's not easy. I
Yeah.
mean, no, children don't come with an instruction book, do they?
Oh man.
So everyone's struggling in some
Dude,
way or the other, man.
that's why I think competition is so important, man. I think I think this whole, you know, there's no such thing as a loser at when you're a kid. No, there is something as a loser in the game. You're not a loser as a person. You lost the game
True.
because
You
you
lost the
need to
game.
figure out how to win that game. And in doing so,
Yeah. Or you get to decide whether you want to play at all.
yeah, play
You
another
know?
game which you win at.
Absolutely. Or you say I'm not playing.
Yeah.
It's really up to you.
Um,
But if you play the game, you play to make some headway, so you can justify the cost that you have sunk into the time you have sunk into the game.
100%, man. For example, dude, I taught for a couple of years, and I also coach these kids on how to play football, right? So
Lovely.
in the start of the year, these kids were they were really excited to play football, so they'd show up like after school and all. But over
Nice.
a point in time, I took their desire to win. Like I kind of kept coaching them. I kind of kept getting them to come. Like I told, so one of these guys, Samir, this student
Mhm.
was basically someone who'd kind of jump around from here to there. Like he would jump, he would fall, and he would like to get hurt. He would put himself in
Mhm.
harm's way. And that is the perfect definition of a central defending midfielder. So I said, man, you're being a central defending midfielder. He took
Get in the dirt.
he
Enjoy it.
he loved that role. In fact, so when we played the semifinals, and these guys lost. And
Nice.
towards the end,
Wow.
towards the end, it's actually nice. It's a good thing that they lost because
Absolutely.
Samir broke down, man. Samir, at the end of that day, Samir was completely in tears. And that's when I realized how much energy and effort he had expended in trying to win. This individual never tried to do that in any other area of his life. And now this individual was able to do that. And not only that, was able to actually be emotionally fine to actually express his emotions around his teammates. And that's when I was like, man, look at you. Where were you a year back and where are you now? Right? See the change in yourself in actually competing. And a lot of people advocate for, competition is bad. Why do you want men? This is another version of toxic masculinity and all that. I think it's BS.
Well, Shivam, the boarding school I went to, where your cousin as well went,
Yeah.
the Sayadri's KFI, they kind of chastised the whole idea of competition
really?
because they always believed that every child is good at something different.
Yeah.
So why compete at all. But I would kind of borrow from what you have said,
Yeah.
and also borrow from that in saying that competition is a reality of this world. You can escape it
Hmm.
because you will be judged by your results that you deliver, not by your intention of कि मुझे लगा था
Hmm.
कि I will do this. In my mind, I had done this. No one gives a damn about what you wanted in
Yeah.
your mind. You're a nice guy. Go play with your cousins.
Hmm.
Go. No one cares. Are you competent? Are you effective? Are you smart?
Yeah.
Are you going to make me money? Are you going to double my profits? Are you going to serve a function? If the answer is
Hmm.
yes, come on board. Show me what you can do and give me results.
Hmm.
In a corporate, you're typically judged based on KPIs, key performance indexes, or KRAs, key result areas. But what happens is a lot of kids don't get judged on KPIs in their houses unless the KPIs are very limited to getting a certain percentage. But as we know, our education system is largely skewed towards the replication of information rather than the generation of new
Hmm.
ideas. So you're just regurgitating what you've read somewhere. So in a way, what you're doing is nothing different than what Siri is doing. Siri or Alexa doesn't have an original idea to share with
Hmm.
you. It merely acts as the conduit through which those ideas are funneled
Yeah,
towards
man.
you. So what are you turning kids into? They're just going to parrot what they have remembered. But if you ask them for one original idea, so that's the problem sometimes. The school systems will make you compete, but compete for what? To become just nothing but a machine that repeats
That's
information
a
read
disgusting
elsewhere.
competition,
Other
man.
than that's a disgusting competition, and unfortunately, that's what it has. That's what it has always been. Because I strongly believe the school system is conditioning people to be workers rather than be entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
or to be sort of employees rather than
Hmm.
business owners.
I guess
So that's the
that's
safe
I
option.
guess that's why a lot of entrepreneurs are like screw school. You don't need school to teach you all the skills. Like I know people who've gone through entrepreneurship school and they've learned a lot. So that's obviously not 100% true. But
Well, I assure you, Shivam, anything you want to learn about entrepreneurship at an entrepreneurship school is learnable on Google or with a few good books. You
hmm,
just won't get a shiny certificate with a silver embossing.
yeah,
But you learn business. There are books. There is YouTube. You can do a free online course as well, or go to Udemy, or even go to masterclass, or Upgrad. There are so many options. You can just sit on your butt at home and learn so
yeah,
much if
totally do.
you have the will to.
Yeah, man.
You
And
don't need entrepreneur.
and now you have like any course for free online. That's
Any course,
amazing.
yeah.
Never in our history did we have
Subsidized
that.
prices as well. And subsidized prices too.
Yeah.
Udemy's offering stuff for like 600, 800 rupees. There are also ways to, some people may illegally download those courses. And really, the access is not
Yeah.
curtailed in any way.
Yeah.
It's only the will that is missing. And no one can teach you how to be hungry for success. That's got to come from within.
Hmm. I think people can teach you how to be hungry for success. You learn from examples. A lot of
So
like
if you-
like example for example, one of the whole the whole argument, not argument, but one of the sociological realities about the African Americans in America is that they're also facing currently a crisis of fatherhood. And that
Mhm,
crisis of fatherhood is actually leading them to be bad fathers, which is severely affecting the way kids are raised in that community. And
mhm,
that's not the case in certain households within these communities where they found that fathers have stayed back for child rearing. Stayed back, I'm saying that as if it's an odd thing, but it's the norm. And that's
mhm,
when you realize that kids do learn from the people around, and they do learn from examples, and you can teach someone to learn to achieve, to be okay with feeling weak, feeling like what you said, like you're not contributing, but at the
mhm.
same time feeling encouraged to get the livelihood skills that they need to kind of succeed at a later point in time. I totally think that can be taught, man.
Hmm. Well, the skills to succeed can be taught, but the will to succeed can't be taught. You
Hmm.
got to want that. You got to want it. You got to want to taste it. You got to want to, scratch, you know,
Hmm.
everywhere to sort of get to the
Hmm.
core of what it really takes to build
Yeah,
something which
definitely.
has your name on.
Dude, there are some guys who are I've seen who are so hungry. Like I'm like, dude, there's no way someone taught you to be that hungry. This is like you're a killer,
Mm-hmm.
man. Like there's some people I met.
You gotta want it.
Yeah, they
You gotta want
want
it
it,
to
dude.
have.
They want it like crazy, man. A few of my one guy I know from Flame. I think
Mm-hmm.
he was crazy driven. Like he was completely okay working 14 hours a day, but not. But here's the thing: when I say 14 hours a day, it's like a generation, like it's a millennial thing for people to say I work 14 hours a day. But I don't believe you
Mm-hmm.
really work 14 hours a day. At the end of the day, you're probably productive like 4 5 hours a day max. But this individual was, he would walk his talk. He was literally that energetic that he would just keep working. And he's gone a very long way,
All right.
man. He's gone.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
He's done very well for himself at the cost of his well-being, though.
Well, sometimes you got to pay a price. I mean, I don't know if you remember how we shot that diploma film of mine.
Yeah.
In 7 days, we shot a 1 hour
Ooh,
film, and
that was a fun time,
we're
man.
kind of rolling in the mud. And you guys helped me so much,
Yeah.
but I really wanted to make a 1 hour film at a time where everyone else was making a 12-minute film.
Yeah.
I said, hey, I have access to the same technology. I'm going to do 1 hour. It's okay if you want to do 12 minutes,
Damn.
but the story I want to tell, for better or worse, is 1 hour worth of storytelling. So I
Hmm.
mean, I really wanted it, and it was a struggle, but
Definitely.
here we are. That kind of taught me what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Even though the film might be laughable in parts today if I see it, but hey, it was a sophomore effort. I was
Yeah.
very young. We evolve, of course. Our interests evolve, but as I said, you got to really want to find that way forward, inch by inch,
Yeah.
as Al Pacino says. There's a speech in the movie Any Given Sunday where he says the inches we need are all around us,
Yeah.
and it's all about getting that inch, grabbing that inch, and
Yeah.
it's the difference between winning and losing, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
We got to try. You fall down, you get up, you try again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically it. You just fall down, you get up, you try again, you try again. And by the way, dude, the the movie was right, Volition, right? So I remember Volition.
That's correct.
So, dude, the storyline actually made was, I think it's still relevant today. If you look at the storyline
Yeah,
itself, like the writing and just the characters, I still remember those little montage, not montages, but those little speaking heads that you had set up, with Hazel and all these people in
right.
the studio, that big space.
Yes, that's
Dude,
correct.
all those things were super relevant. I think in terms of just overall storyline, it was pretty cool, man.
I mean, I tried to paint a portrait of loneliness, and now, I mean, we live at a time of social distancing. There is loneliness as well.
Yeah.
Even a movie like Joker, which came out with Joaquin Phoenix,
Hmm.
addresses loneliness and the themes of depression and how that can lead to
Yeah.
insanity and sadism at some level. So for me, I think it was also it spoke. I wrote a story about loneliness because I perhaps felt very lonely during that phase
That
of my
phase.
life as well.
Sure,
It's
man.
a very lesser known fact. It's a story that spoke to me as well
Hmm.
because I kind of went through a period of not feeling assimilated with I just couldn't sit around and pretend like I was best friends with everyone.
Yeah.
I'd feel very alone in a room full of 20 people. Because sometimes the wavelengths don't match,
Yeah.
or maybe your expectations are largely
Yeah.
romanticized of what a best friend is like, etc. So I kind of used that film was kind of therapeutic to me as well, to sort of explore a few themes
Yeah,
and see
man.
that no one talks about loneliness, but it does sometimes. It can really be a difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah, man. I think, dude, for sure, man. I think the first couple of months of this lockdown was pretty weird for me, man. Because
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, all of the structures that I had set up, I'm pretty extroverted. Most of my structures were outside my home. Going,
Yeah, yeah, I know you, man. I've known you for a while. We've known each other for 12
yeah.
years now.
So
Yeah.
I like to be outside, and everything was kind of like I was like kind of kept home for a couple of months, and that was, I think a lot of people have had that experience now, and hopefully we are going to come out of this a little bit better, man.
Mine starts playing games with you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us.
Schedules and everything. What about so what do you think of these new style shows? I don't know if you've seen Westworld or Dark.
I've not seen both, but I know of them. Westworld on HBO and Dark on Netflix. I'm aware, but I've not seen both of these shows.
It's they're based like they're very much like not dark, but they're all like pulp fiction kind of like the genre, not the movie style, but the
Neo noir science fiction, so to speak, about humanity and
yeah.
questions of parallel universes, etc.
Yeah,
I'm
and like
aware.
they've jumbled up the timelines like crazy. And I would love to get your thought
A
on
show
that
like
kind of new style of
a show
cinema.
like Black Mirror, a show like Black Mirror as well.
Hmm.
If you've seen that,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it was very much about technology, techno horror. It's
Yeah,
called. What would happen when technology goes sentient and the singularity
yeah,
occurs,
yeah,
and machines take over, and human intelligence is rendered obsolete, and we become prisoners of our own device, as the lyrics go in Hotel
yeah.
California. So
I'm
it's an interesting.
yeah, it's definitely.
Tell me.
I'm trying to figure out firstly why these kinds of topics are popular now, but also like what do you think of the story, that kind of storytelling? Because it's, I mean, it's relatively new. I've not seen a lot of it come up in the early between 2000 to 2010.
Well, I think The Matrix kind of
Hmm.
popularized this
Yes.
genre of, sort of what is our consciousness, what is our purpose, what is causality, how would we interact with the machines if they, sort of came and started doing our work for
Yeah.
us. It's been explored in so many movies. Spielberg's AI, artificial
Hmm.
intelligence, 2001: A Space Odyssey, all kinds of movies. Even the Terminator movies at their core are about that question
Yeah.
of what happens when a machine tries to take control of history using time travel. So we have certainly a rich history of movies that question these things.
Yeah.
Um,
I Am Legend.
the I Am Legend, themes of transhumanism as well, like in the movie Lucy or Transcendence, whereby the human consciousness, or the movie Her,
Hmm.
the human consciousness
Ooh.
assimilates the larger information network out there, which is obviously based off the internet and
Yeah.
computers and everything. So I remember there was a Keanu Reeves movie in the 1980s as well called Joni Mnemonic, where
Oh.
human beings are used as external hard drives.
Whoa.
So basically, you download information in a human courier,
Yeah.
and it's like something like 40 GB
Yeah.
back in the 80s, and he basically has to smuggle that information and reach it to its source. It's a really terrible movie, but that concept, of what is it, the human brain is it just a thumb drive? Is it just a pen drive? You can look up Johnny Mnemonic.
Dude.
It's got Keanu Reeves in
I'm
it
imagining
when he was very
someone like
young.
hold like I'm imagining someone just a bunch of people just sitting like zombies like in a room, and this guy holds your hand and pulls you up and plugs your brain into a fucking in a computer, hits a thing, puts a few uh,
40 GB.
40 GB in your brain, and then you kind of get a hit, and then you start walking around. That's messed up,
Lots of
man.
movies.
That's
I
crazy.
think people are curious about the human
Hmm.
experience as it probably will be maybe 10, 20 years
Yeah.
from now.
Yeah.
I think people are curious about what the next great revolution will be.
Right.
We've seen the industrial revolution, the agricultural revolution,
Yeah.
uh, even the scientific revolution to some extent, moon landings, etc. Now, what are we looking at?
Hmm.
What revolution are we looking at?
Yeah.
Maybe is it AI? What is it? So people are asking these questions,
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of people have already started working on some pretty scary tech. So apparently,
Hmm.
Elon Musk's what he said was AI can take over because our input output with AI is very limited. So our input with any kind of machine is only through our hands or through our thumbs,
Hmm.
which itself is a very limiting medium. So his basic
Fair enough.
premise was that we need to increase the bandwidth of incoming messages to computers. So he's trying to link the human brain to computers so that people can, like, supposing
Hmm.
if you're programming, you need to type it out right now. But with what he's trying to design, and he's already working on it, he's been working on it for a few years now, you can think thoughts, and that's going to be like your code. Like if supposing you're coding and you just think a thought, and that's just going to come up on code.
Some kind of cognitive shorthand.
Yes. Just kind of like a link
Understood.
from your brain to the computer, which can basically take
Hmm.
input and then I guess maybe eventually even kind of talk back to you via the brain.
Sounds like something from the Umbrella Academy or the show Heroes, or where people can telepathically do things and
Yeah,
sort of
man.
just, yeah. I mean, why not, right? As long as we're talking about the fantasy realm. Imagine how useful that'll be to me as a psychotherapist
Yeah,
to just look at my clients and know what their problems are, and then, to really just be able to help them and really give them solutions, work on solutions with them rather. Sometimes even give them solutions on which way they could be looking
hmm.
for, a better way
Yeah,
forward, happier way forward.
yeah, man.
So, yeah, interesting questions you've raised, buddy.
Yeah, dude. So a lot of the, and also just think about what that would do for lie catching, man. You
Mm.
probably won't have.
Poly- the polygraph gets upgraded.
Yeah, you won't have a polygraph, man. You just have like a one way. There's gonna be no secrets. Imagine a world without secrets. So
There's a movie there's a movie in fact on this topic. It's called The Invention of Lying.
the invention
You
of
should
lying.
watch it.
I will check it out, dude. I will. What's
It's
it
uh,
about?
it's got uh, it's got Ricky Gervais,
Oh,
I don't know how to say it. Ricky Gervais, the British
yeah, yeah, yeah.
comedian in it. It's called Invention of Lying. So it's a utopian world where nobody lies to each other, and he kind of invents lying. It's a satire, high concept satire. Movie was all right, but I really thought it was a very interesting concept. You can later see the trailer on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll check it out, man. I'll give it a look. But
Hmm.
yeah, man, imagine that. So there's this whole evolutionary idea that lying and facial expressions evolved. Like for example, the poker face evolved because
Mm-hmm.
I lied to myself, right? Because you have in your mind a lie detection mechanism which is really evolved. Because like if supposing someone lied to you and got through, for example, in a mating scenario or in a resource sharing scenario, if someone lies to you and if you're in the
Mm-hmm.
jungle, you're completely like you're going to get screwed over of a lot of resources. You might even die. So the
Mm-hmm.
theory says that we've evolved to catch lies, right? And because we've
Mm-hmm.
evolved to catch lies, a lot of the stuff that is a lot of the reasons why people lie, and actually there are cases where people end up believing the lies that they say, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that the only reason you get away with lies in that level is if you yourself believe a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like saying, do you or not, like if I'm lying to you, I am incentivized then to believe the bullshit that I'm talking to you, because if I don't believe it, I'm communicating more actively that I'm lying.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, how would one of these machines work, man? Would they be able to tell
Right.
what's a real lie and a false lie? Because if I believe my bullshit,
Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? Because I think these machines are essentially built to detect changes in your body
yeah,
temperature, in your heart rate, pupil dilation, sweat glands, etc. And
yeah,
if you can, like, I remember there was this movie called Hannibal Rising,
hmm,
which was a prequel to Dr. Hannibal Lecter's story based on the famous Thomas
yeah,
Harris books, whereby they've shown as a young man after his first murder, he's put through a polygraph and his reading is extremely normal because he's a sociopath and a psychopath, and he's cold-blooded.
yeah,
He doesn't feel any remorse for having
hmm,
murdered people in cold blood for vengeance. So you can trick yourself. Self-deception is a large is a very large topic,
ooh,
that can be discussed, because I think all human beings essentially do engage in some form. I can see you
yeah, man,
smiling there.
self deception is huge, man.
We do engage in some form of self-deception. So even earlier you had said some people might be really obnoxious, but they have convinced themselves that they are obnoxious because they're surrounded by idiots, or because they're surrounded by unworthy
Yeah, man.
people, or because they're surrounded by people who are not as sharp as them or as astute as them. So that is a form of self-deception, to place yourself at a
Yeah,
premium or at an elevation, and then look down on everyone as minions, or just functionaries
yeah,
who help you live out your larger fantasies, or fulfill your larger plan.
Mm.
So
Yeah, man.
so that is also a form of self-deception, because for every human being essentially living their life, they are the central protagonist of that story, the story that involves them, their family, their journey, their school, their college, their
Yeah.
education, their aspirations, the ongoing journey. But everyone thinks that they are the Shah Rukh Khan of their story,
Yeah, man.
whereby for someone else you might be the Rajpal Yadav of that
Yeah.
story. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, man. I've personally had that happen to me. So first of all, when I realized this fact, I'm like, holy shit, where have I been lying to myself, man? There's got to be somewhere where I'm deceiving myself as well. Because I mean, if
We
everyone
all
does
do.
it, there's no way I can. I'm remiss from that. That's obviously happening with me as well. So I was like thinking, dude, and then you take an account of then I take an account of, okay, where have I been deceiving myself? Like, what are the spaces that I've been lying to myself? And then some
Mm-hmm.
things pop up, and then some things don't. But every now and then, I think it's a good inventory to take. Very often, but
Absolutely.
very often though, and this is also something which really trips me up. At what level I
Mm-hmm.
know, like supposing I know at a certain level, right? Based on your current zeitgeist of how you view the world, right? Uh, at least of how I view the world. I don't know that I am not aware, right? I don't know that I don't know. I don't have any kind of
That's
realization
right.
about my ignorance of how fucking dumb I am.
Yeah.
And that's when I'll be like, okay, but I'll have one experience or like a couple of experiences, and then that stuff starts making sense. Okay, maybe I'm deceiving myself. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
the most dangerous thing in the world is people who don't give you critical feedback. And that critical feedback could be verbal. It could be like, you know what, you sucked, man. Just face it. It's fine. It's cool. I love you, but you sucked, right? I
Mm-hmm.
really value that. Uh, but nobody ever does that because nobody wants to be rude. But every now and then, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get some kind of feedback. Like you you behaved in a certain way, and then as a result, this person kind of drifted away from your life a little bit, or uh, you played like just like even tennis, like supposing you played in a certain way and you kept losing points. Why was that? Yeah, because you kept hitting it on the net, right? That level of
Mm-hmm.
reflection actually helps me get to some level of realization as to just how I've been not deceiving myself. Now, see, now I have to kind of blunt that because I'm talking about myself. But
Mm.
it's literally deceiving myself. So I'm kind of thinking about how I've deceived myself in the past. I'm reflecting, and then once I reflect a little bit on that situation, I get a little understanding of, maybe I'm not as good. Maybe my shit does stink. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of people talk about self-reflection, but there's also a lot of self-deflection,
Yeah.
distracting and telling yourself with the next big breaking story on the University of WhatsApp, or,
Hmm.
commenting about how bad the rains are in Mumbai, or how Modi has not done something he
Yeah.
said he would do. So that's deflection.
Hmm.
So many people spend time gossiping about what other people are doing, watching something obnoxious like Indian matchmaking, rather than spending time watching a TED talk, or sort of doing something that gives you incremental value in your profession
Yeah.
and your social, because it's idle. It's very easy to just sit around and sort of pretend that you've done it all and seen it all.
Damn.
But see, you said a very interesting thing. You said, how do I know that my shit stinks? So how do I know that I am making mistakes? And that's the thing, you don't until you've already made
Yeah.
them. Because as I always say, regret is always felt in hindsight. Regret cannot be experienced preemptively.
True.
Regret can only be experienced after you have made those mistakes, or you've fallen flat on your face. And usually that's also the catalyst for people to come to a therapist like me. They say, all right, I've suffered, it sucks, and I've probably suffered enough to know that there's something I need to do about it, enough to know that I need someone to intervene and give me some perspective, unbiased
Yeah.
opinions that can give me a mandate to sort of revisit all these things that I've been doing, which are clearly not doing me any favors, and are sort of giving my relationships some pause and some trouble. So perspective is a result of this iterative process of living examining, re-examining, living some more, examining, re-examining again, living some more, making those mistakes, falling, tripping.
Yeah.
But the idea is to find new things to be regretful about. So if you're continuously regretful about the same things, that means you haven't evolved.
And also, it's not kind of healthy,
If
man.
you,
It's not healthy to keep thinking about the same shit
yeah.
over and over again. Like after a point in time, you gotta
So
let
there's a
go.
qualitative, oh, absolutely, there's a qualitative difference between guilt and remorse. Guilt is usually self-punitive.
Yeah.
It's a very self-condemnatory voice
Mm.
saying you fucked up, or
Yeah.
idiot, an imbecile, or you don't know what you're doing. But remorse is really about it's like it's like going back to a crime scene and re-examining the evidence, saying,
Mm.
what have I what have I missed out? Is
Yeah.
there something I've not seen? Is there something I've not thought
And
about?
usually that second part, like remorse or a kind of self-reflection, is very neutral. It has no emotional, like at least for me, it has no emotional aspect. Like, okay, I'll be like, oh, I missed it, but it's okay. Like this is what it
But that's
is.
because it's based in fact.
It's, yeah,
That's
exactly.
because it's based in
It is based in
not
fact.
based in emotion. The moment it's based in strong emotions, it becomes guilt.
Exactly.
Such a fine line. People use
Yeah.
these words interchangeably.
It's not.
I'm feeling so guilty
And you know what's,
for having missed my gym.
you know what's,
No, that means that that means
yeah,
you're telling yourself I'm an ass for missing gym. When you feel remorseful,
yeah,
you feel bad. You say, hey, I've paid money and I need to fulfill my
yeah.
membership, to justify this big chunk of money.
You,
So maybe I could earlier or figure this out.
yeah, man. It's like, yeah, and if you feel guilty about that, then like sorry to say, but there are probably bigger things in your life that you're not paying attention to. If you're feeling guilty about missing the gym, damn son,
Could
you
be.
probably got something large in it. For me though, personally, what did I say? Yeah, with reference to guilt, I really think, and I've had experiences, and now I can generalize from that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe society really primes you to feel guilty. Like there are so
Yes.
many spaces in life where people are to
100%.
like. It starts at the age of 5, man, when you're like people are like kind of shaming you for being naked. Granted that we can't all walk around naked in public, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Mm.
saying is that why does that have to be associated with shame, right? And um, a lot of it now has translated into shame and guilt in terms of your own identity. So a lot of people are like feeling guilty. Like there's this whole thing called white guilt, right? And that's a,
The white man's burden.
yeah, the white man's burden, and that's like a whole race of people feeling guilty for their existence because the moment they were born, the moment they were young, they've been told, well, their life is a privilege. They're privileged to be alive, and because of that privilege, now they owe something to someone else. So the way that these individuals walk around is like they walk around apologizing for themselves all the time, but you're not. Why are you apologizing? Like there's no real like, hey, I'm sorry. Like for like, let me give you an example. Like I was hanging around at one of these mixers,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just chat. So like there's basically a bunch of employers all around you, and as colleagues you meet in the center, you chat about which employers employing whom, and you kind of like talk about that stuff. So we were in the circle, we were kind of chatting, and this one girl who is white, and one of my friends who is also white, this girl turns around to him and says, well, what do you have to worry about? You are a straight white man. You don't
Mm.
have anything to worry about. It was just a regular conversation, but that seemed aggressive to me.
A little aggressive.
My
Yeah.
friend,
Still on the nose.
my friend just took it. He was like, oh, 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 and he cowered. I was like, you actually feel guilty for being yourself?
Mm.
Man, he was such a nice guy too. Dude. It's weird when you use guilt to control,
Well, it's a
and
shortcut,
that,
isn't it, Shivam? It's a way
yeah,
to simplify the parenting and schooling process because guilt is a very effective motivator. It's it's a way to remind you that you must toe the line
mm,
and you must follow the instructions of the so-called authority figure. Like
yes,
I remember we had this teacher who used to say, "You have not come here to give me answers. Don't give me answers that I have
mm,
not asked you questions to." And a teacher used to
yeah,
say, "Oh, I'm not. You have not come to school to tell me what you think. You have come to
yeah,
school to learn what I have to tell you. You need to learn."
yeah,
We used to have teachers like
yeah,
that. This is obviously pre-international IGCSE and all that. This is in the old days, when people were, it was old school. ICSE tha, SSC tha. Teachers used to hit you on your bloody knuckles here. So
Yeah.
usually guilt was a very effective motivator to sort of bash errant children up psychologically and
Hmm.
to sort of get them
Yeah.
back down from their stance, because no one likes an original idea. Everyone who's
Yeah.
ever had an original idea has been shunted away, whether it was Jesus, Buddha, whether it was even Steve Jobs in his initial days. They're usually shunted away, saying, "No, no, no." Even Galileo was persecuted by the church because they said, "What rubbish is this man talking? What is this
Yeah.
telescope? The, God created the world. Man came into existence on the seventh day. There was a talking snake, and the world is flat." And here comes this guy saying, "No, no, no, it's not the sun that rotates around us. We are a globe, and
Yeah.
from what I hear, he was persecuted, and it was unfortunate.
Yeah. And they
Copernicus,
attacked his reputation, man. They attacked who he was. They didn't attack his ideas.
everyone with an original idea has been considered errant or has been considered in some way, uh, stubborn or ungrateful to the system, and has been, as I said, driven away. The Buddha was when he was around, he was busy telling people, you spend all this money on these elaborate rituals. They
Yeah.
see he involved in so many Hindu rituals, and there's a different
Yeah.
market for those products, and Havan and all these things. This is all crap. He said, you think you're going to do this and you're going to find happiness and joy? This is not going to help. This is not going to. So they said, all right, we don't like this guy. Let's send him to Tibet. Back then, it wasn't Tibet. They said, just please, not here. Please go some. यहाँ पे मत करो अपना. He went to China, Tibet, Myanmar, Thailand, which are
Yeah.
just Buddhist countries, and
Yeah.
they kind of appreciated him a lot more out there than they did in his
Definitely.
own country, where his land of his
Yeah.
birth.
And he wasn't
No one
saying
likes
something
traditional.
radical or anything. I guess at the time he was saying something crazy radical, but it wasn't really radical. All he was saying was just live in moderation, man. Just don't go crazy,
Middle path.
guys. Yeah, just
Yeah, and what did Jesus say? Jesus didn't write the Old and New Testament. He just said, be kind to each other and, hang out and sort of stop persecuting each other and help each other out. Actually, what Jesus said was not as complicated as it's being made to
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
All these interpreters, coming in and saying, we know what the truth is.
Yeah.
No, none of us were there. None of y'all were there. So let's not pretend to be experts. There's
Yeah.
nothing. So an original idea need not be something insulting.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a beautiful opportunity to discover something about yourself, and you can borrow liberally from the past.
Yes.
I mean, that's what history is there for, right?
Yeah.
The history of religion, the history of philosophy,
Yes.
the history of even warfare.
Yeah.
It's all there to teach us something about ourselves, about
Yeah.
about the mistakes we've made, about the fact that despite so-called conventional wisdom,
Yes.
we have fallen flat on our faces time and time again due to greed and corruption.
Yeah. It's also because I think to a very large extent we don't understand the message itself. Like the reason why we learn from religion, I mean, and I was an atheist for a very long time. I'm still an atheist, but that doesn't mean you can't learn from these stories for the simple reason that
Of course you can.
for the simple reason that there's a reason why the stories that are encapsulated in like these large texts like the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, like the stories of the people, that's a meta story. That's a larger story that has come out of thousands of small stories told over a long period of time. And that meta story has something cathartic, something timeless in it, which you can definitely learn from. And I think Jordan Peterson does a brilliant job of actually laying out some of these elements that you can learn from and these kind of meta narratives that actually kind of tell you a little bit more about themselves. As a storyteller, I'm sure you've probably heard of Joseph Campbell's the Hero's Journey.
Yeah.
And the Hero's Journey.
It's based on the screenplay prototype, right? The Hero's Journey.
Yes. The Hero's Journey is actually kind of extracted from a lot of Jung's work on the shadow, and it involves a story arc that everyone goes through. And if you find mythical stories like Bluebeard and all these other weird stories from the past, which on their face look very dark and very maniacal, they actually have some really powerful takeaways. So and they have a very similar arc in that it starts with the hero's discovery of a latent talent. and then there's a prolonged period of darkness, which usually involves some kind of uh, falling into some kind of darkness, fighting some kind of monster in that depth.
Mm.
And what the hero comes away with is some symbolic version of a gift. Usually a princess, or if for some reason the gift is always feminine in nature.
Yeah, well,
It's not female, but it's
that's why they
feminine.
went to war in Troy as well, right? It was over
Yes.
a woman.
Yes.
I mean, Patra as well,
Yeah.
famously caused,
Yeah.
or Padmavat for that matter.
Yeah,
you know.
but yeah, because you see the gift in that. Even in Padmavat, you see the guy's gifts, and you see darkness fall upon him, and then you see him respond to that darkness. And then, like, he's made this beautiful story arc based on, in fact, one of the first movies made deliberately modeled after that is Star Wars. And Star
Mhm.
Wars is one of the most epic sagas in terms of symbols of humanity, right? Even though these
Yeah,
creatures are
space
mystical.
opera, no other.
Sorry?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah,
a space opera like no other.
exactly. And that's because a lot of it was made on that. So I think that a lot of these historical stories have a lot to take away from. You can take away a
Well,
lot from
Shivam,
it.
they serve an allegorical purpose to
Yes.
sort of remind humanity of its greatest triumphs and its greatest moments of despair.
Hmm.
So, as you said, there is an abyss that people sink into
Yes.
very often as a result of mismatched expectations or our baser instincts such as greed, jealousy, propensity for violence.
Hmm.
So I was seeing a video a couple of weeks ago that when you have maxed out
Yeah.
your pleasure, you have maxed out all the pleasure that you could get from a situation.
Yeah.
The only direction you want to max out is pain, which is why the Romans were so notorious for gladiatorial conflict, because they had all their needs met.
Yeah.
They had those crazy parties where where we used to, our school teacher had told us, where they would eat all night and puke and then eat all over again and sleep with prostitutes, etc. So so that was happening.
Or
And many,
BDSM, man. BDSM is a perfect example of what you're talking about.
yeah, you max out the pleasure, so now I want to explore and see what the pain feels like.
Yeah.
There's an innate curiosity about it. It's why you'll see young children also want to take a magnifying glass and burn a butterfly or burn like a little insect also, because that curiosity is there, that a sense of power which humanity seeks to exert over its fellow man or over its environment.
Hmm.
I feel that is a part of also our evolutionary design, perhaps
Yeah.
an unfortunate part of our evolutionary design, where it's all about power dynamics, and it's about who's the might is right, and I was here first, therefore that makes me the original inhabitant.
Yeah. You can't exist
You know.
without it, though. You need it, I think.
Mm.
I think
Well,
you need it.
to some extent, it's part of our evolutionary design, but having said that, there's a difference between intent and acting upon intent. So, I mean, there are many aspects of our evolutionary design which may not serve us well in a civilized society with cooperative living. But instead of fighting it, it's important to understand it.
Yes.
Because a lot of people make mistakes and then they chastise themselves. They sort of blame themselves. Oh, I'm a rotten human being. I'm full of shit. I'm the worst person. I'm the scum of the universe. But then that's not really helping you, is it? It's better to accept yourself with the good and the bad, but then make choices that align with what you would like for yourself.
Yeah, man. So here's the thing. So we are speaking about guilt. Society guilts the shit, like living shit out of you, like for life. You're not allowed to, use profanity.
It's to simplify their job of keeping you in control.
But if you're guilty about feeling certain ways, how are you going to accept the darkest parts of you? Right? Like, how is that going to happen? So I think a lot of people like walk around with not having accepted the fact that they are monsters. We're all monsters, man. Like, what we are is trained xenophobic killing machines. That's how evolution got us. Right? That's why we're here. We were able
many would be that way even now, but not everyone, I would say. But
yeah, I mean,
we can't generalize. But yes.
Yeah, I'm saying there's a difference between recognizing you're a monster and doing monstrous things. I'm not talking about doing monstrous things. I'm not saying killing people, like fucking kicking people in the nuts as they're walking around, like, all that kind of jazz. But my point is, like, you have a dark side. You have a dark side. I have a dark side. Everyone has a dark side. Um, and you probably need to be able to recognize that dark side, because if you don't, it's still going to show up. But if you recognize it, you know how to deal with it and you know how to talk to it. But if you don't know how to talk to it, it's going to be a problem. Like one of my friends, he's never done something dark, or he's not in. I asked him straight up. I was like, bro, do you think you have a dark side? He's like, I've never interacted with my dark side. And some guys, I ask them, I'll be like, bro, have you met your dark side? Do you know what the darkest period of your life was? And they'd be like, unequivocally, they'll be like, yes, I have seen that part. For those that don't, they're obviously
Mhm.
living, they think they're living happy. At the same time, I've seen them experience some level of existential crisis. I don't know why they correlate, but they're kind of like, I don't really know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's also because they haven't probably seen the darkest side of themselves. It's a
No, well, because we don't like to sometimes look at our shortcomings because that makes us small.
yeah,
That makes us feel like we haven't figured it out.
yeah,
And no one likes to feel like they haven't figured it out, even when in fact they haven't figured it out.
yeah,
They'd like to act like they have it all
yeah.
figured out. So what you are referring to as a person's dark side could also be that part of them which they haven't figured out. It can also be that part of them that they're not exactly proud of, that
Yeah.
they're actually quite ashamed. It could be that part of them that they have been taught to hate because of
Mm.
how they've been brought up by their families and societies and schools and due to the interaction with their friends.
Yeah.
Or the dark side could also be something they're very aware of. However, they're extremely lazy to work on.
Mm.
These could all come under the classification of what's your dark side.
Right.
Because the fact that it's dark means that there is an absence of illumination. That means
Yes.
there's an absence of insight, there's an absence of
Well
observation.
said, man.
And most people, Shivam, don't like to observe themselves because what they will get scratch beneath the surface is not something very palatable.
Wow, man.
They'll say, holy shit, I have issues. Oh no, I haven't resolved this yet. Oh, am I carrying around something that happened to me when I was 11? Because when those questions come up and you're already growing older,
Yeah.
you might feel extremely compromised, and then you're not in therapy or you don't have someone to hold you through that moment. You can completely discombobulate,
Yeah, man.
inside.
Have you ever read a book that really confronted you, dude? That really
Well,
confronted
so many. I think one book that really changed my perception of things was when I was in school. It's a little cliche, the book, but it's called The Alchemist.
you?
And what I really liked about the book, at least what I understood back then as a 15-year-old, was, sometimes we're looking for treasure in all the wrong places, or we're looking for treasure everywhere.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is where you exactly are currently, that is a moment, that is an opportunity to be treasured as well.
Mm.
घूम फिर के आप घर वापस आओगे. You'll return home.
Mm.
And you realize home is perhaps where the treasure lied in the first place,
Mm.
and you were bouncing from place to place. It's a question that I would say, to some metaphorical extent, was even answered in the movie Ye Jawani Hai Diwani with Ranbir Kapoor. That he uses travel as a way to escape his own discomfort with his father's new life and new wife, and his own lack of familial comfort.
Right.
And that makes him kind of like a gypsy. But when he meets a girl who he loves, he wants to give that up and sort of just park himself right next to her, saying, "I'm not going anywhere."
Yeah.
So that question of again bringing us back to the hero's journey. It's all about the journey within, but also the journey outside, and the two may sometimes actually bring you to the same place
Yeah.
if you let it.
Yeah, man.
So
For sure.
absolutely, that's what I feel.
Yeah, dude. I think that made a lot of sense, especially with reference to some of the things that you said about going through that journey. And it's important that you kind of go from it from a spirit of not trying to escape, like doing it.
Yeah,
You
don't
do.
escape yourself, man. I mean, where are you going to go? Like, I was listening to this lovely podcast a couple of weeks ago where this man spoke about how traveling changed his life. He said
Ooh.
the first time he traveled alone, he said, the first time I traveled alone,
Yeah.
I completely forgot that I had brought myself along as
Oh
well,
yeah, dude.
you know?
Yeah.
And he was not happy with that. He's like, shit, I brought myself on this holiday. That's not what I wanted.
Yeah, man.
I wanted to escape from something.
Yeah,
But here
there's
I am with my.
yeah, dude. There's something about like being by yourself when you're traveling solo, and then having to say, okay, shit, I don't have anyone around me that has to make a decision with me. So I guess I'm gonna do what I want to do. And
I brought myself along. So, maybe sometimes it's
yeah,
about.
it's tough to figure out what you have, like what to do when you're traveling solo, because then you're like free to choose. At least the times when
I'm
I
an
traveled.
expert. I'm an expert.
That's what I was going
I
about to
have
ask
been
you,
to so
man.
many countries alone. Yeah. I've been a lot. For me,
Yeah.
it started as a way to sort of get over a breakup I was
Mm.
having, and I know it's a bit cliche, but it was a difficult time for me, and I was really miserable and self-loathing, self-pitying, self, sort of blaming. I
Yeah.
was not in a good place, so I started traveling as a way to sort of see whether I could get out of my comfort
Hmm.
zone and sort of stop defining myself based on how someone else
Ooh.
sees
Yeah.
me. See, no doubt that even today, if someone gives me a heartfelt compliment about how I speak or how I look or how my book is or whatever, I'll feel great.
Hmm.
But I don't let that define how I see myself. And that is an acquired skill.
Hmm.
That is an acquired skill.
Yeah.
You got to learn to trust your perception of yourself, because there are years and years of conditioning where you didn't only lack a perception of yourself, but everyone else who had a perception of you kind of tried to pitch that perception to
Hmm.
you repeatedly. The school teachers told you you're useless, you're lazy, your parents told you you're ungrateful, you're indisciplined,
Hmm.
and you're uncouth. Your family told you you're ungrateful, your parents do so much for you. So those perceptions are borrowed perceptions which you've internalized.
Hmm.
Then you reach a point when you're in your 20s or 30s, you realize that these were just transient opinions,
Yeah.
uh, and they were just coming from a lack of information that these people had, or perhaps what they thought was good parenting or good conditioning for you,
Hmm.
that they kind of force down your gullet,
Yeah,
and
man.
then you realize that you have spent an entire life seeing yourself through the eyes of
Yeah,
others
man.
as opposed to seeing yourself through your own eyes. I
Wow.
mean, who knows you better than
That's
you?
crazy.
Who can potentially know you better than you? Not your mom, not your dad, not your siblings, not your teachers, not your friends, not your boss,
Hmm.
not your spiritual leader.
You, man.
None of these people. It's you.
Hmm.
You got to figure this out, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And be kind to yourself, man. Be kind to
Yeah.
yourself. Everyone's done some dumb shit. Everyone's been winging it in some way or the other.
Right.
We've all dated people we knew were not right for us. We've
Hmm.
all hung on to relationships without realizing that they had gone way past the expiry date.
Right.
We've all we've all tried things that we thought we'd be really good at, and
Hmm.
then somehow it didn't pan out. Everyone's been down that road. So the idea is you pick yourself
Yeah.
up and you walk.
So with reference to and wait, so you realized this when you went solo traveling, is it? So a lot of
Yeah,
this
I
stuff
realize
came to
it's
you.
not as scary. Yes, absolutely. I was confronted with the fact that at the outset, I never enjoyed my own company. I used to almost regret the fact that I don't have someone to travel with
Hmm.
myself. But when I went and I started talking to people from other countries, I realized a lot of the burdens that we carry are also culturally induced.
Yeah.
So when I went solo backpacking in Cambodia, I was a part of this tour. I was a part of this bus
Yeah.
which had a lot of white people from different countries, from Sweden, from Australia, from the UK. And I realized I was the oldest person on that bus at the age of 27.
Damn.
Everyone was 19, 20. Everyone's traveling for 5 months, 6 months. And I realized, what are the Indian counterparts of these people who are in their late teens, 19, 21-year-old girls? What are they doing in India? Oh, wait a minute. They're trying to crack competitive exams, IAS, IPS, IFS, MBA, CFA. Why? Because we're a poor country and education is seen as a passport to a better life, a bigger house, a bigger car.
Hmm.
So this is why these guys are out there living it up in Cambodia, and their Indian counterparts are busy asking their mother to reheat the aloo paratha in the morning
Hmm.
while they're busy mugging things up. I said, how unfortunate, because I believed that, and I started realizing how traveling builds character because it gives you a world view that probably you never had before.
Right.
You develop an original opinion of the world you live in, not an opinion that you have borrowed from your mother or
Yes,
your
dude.
father.
Yes.
You're borrowing opinions, like hand-me-down opinions.
Mm.
Where's the origin? Is there an original thought?
Yeah.
There's a WhatsApp group I'm on which has some members of the extended family. All that gets shared there are forwards and WhatsApp forwards. And I sometimes wonder where's an original idea in that?
There is no
What
origin.
are your perspectives? Where is your look at both of us today, old friends,
Hmm.
known each other, I repeat, for 12 years.
Yeah.
For those who have reached this point and are watching this video.
Yeah.
But it's a casual conversation and a sharing of perspectives.
Yeah. Man.
Some hard learned,
Yeah.
some perspectives based on what we've been reading, what we've been following.
Hmm.
And that is important. You need to have original thoughts, not just regurgitate what someone else has sent you. Otherwise, you're like, we used to have this toy when I was growing up in my house, like this parrot. Like when you put the on button, you say, I love you, and the parrot will say, I love you. It'll just repeat whatever you say,
Yeah.
Say, I don't like the rains. I don't like the rains. It's just a machine. It just repeats. So what is happening with the pandemic, with WhatsApp now becoming a place of congregation, since you can't meet people face to face? There's a lot of regurgitated opinions.
Yes.
An original idea is missing, or if there's an original idea, it is usually paired with a lot of arrogance.
Mhm.
Look at my original idea; it's better than your original idea. Your idea isn't an idea at all. Shut up, listen, dear.
Yeah, it
Or
kind of
die.
gets into this zero sum mentality, which is like you can't, I
Yeah,
can't, you can't
it's
exist when my
it's
opinion exists, kind of thing.
absolutely. It's become a pissing contest on WhatsApp. Conspiracy theories about what the government should be doing, or what
Yeah,
the coronavirus numbers. You don't know the real statistics. Calm down, man. Not like you're a statistician appointed by the BJP government. Calm your ass down. Have some dal chawal and take a nap.
exactly, man.
It's all good.
Chill the fuck, dude. Number of people who kind of share crap, but at the same time, dude, with reference to like solo travel, I completely agree with you. It kind of helps build that perspective. I went to Vietnam for like a few days, maybe 5 days. I had another trip that I
Oh,
to Vietnam.
how beautiful. I've been to Vietnam for 21 days. It's a great
Where all
country.
did you go, by
Lovely.
the way? Where all did you go?
I went everywhere. Where else? Where didn't I go? I went to Halong Bay, Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh,
Ooh,
Hoi
so you
An,
did the
Da
whole
Nang.
place.
Oh yes, pura north to south kiya
Okay,
maine.
because
Super.
yeah,
Maza.
I was like, I just want to be at Ho Chi, so I was just at Ho Chi Minh, and for 5
Oh
days.
dear, you missed the best parts. Da Nang is amazing with the dark cave. Hoi An is dreamy.
I missed
It's like a dream.
I do think
Yeah.
I missed a lot. At the same time, though, I discovered what I really liked in that space. So
Which
the reason why I
which
hung out,
is
I love to know about, I love to learn about the political history of the space that I'm in. I don't know why.
Did you go to any of the war museums? The war museums? The Chuchi tunnels?
I went to the Kuchi tunnels. I went to the war museums. I did one of those bike rides where you sit in and this guy
What bike?
takes you through
Yes.
the whole space of all the historical spaces and kind of walks you through it. And
You went to the Mekong Delta as well?
I didn't get a
Mekong River?
Mekong. No, I didn't go to the Mekong Delta. No, I
Okay.
went up to the Kuchi tunnels because I think I was there for around 3.5 days or so. But
Right.
overall, no, I was there for a while. I don't even remember, man. I might have been there for 5 days.
Mhm.
But what I realized was that I'd love to know about the history of the space. Before that, though,
Of course.
before that, I hated history. I despised it because what I thought was history was facts. Like there's no inference that you could make from these facts. I thought there was just people just remembering facts for some reason. That's my idea of history from the Indian educational system. This is after Flint.
Well, no, absolutely. When I was in school, now I realize that the history we were taught was essentially a history of important dates
Yeah.
surrounding the inception of the Indian National Congress and the many leaders who sort of inhabited that party.
But it's not. It's
When was the generation? No, in Indian history, there's notoriously less information on Subhash Chandra Bose. Notoriously very little information on Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel.
Yeah.
There's very little known about them.
Yeah, or like
It's also Gandhian Congress. Nothing wrong with that, but then that's a little skewed, isn't
It
it?
is really skewed, and people haven't like for
Or the SSC schools constantly vilifying the Mughals and glorifying Shivaji Maharaj and the Peshwas. So it's very skewed. I
it's
mean,
very
there's so
skewed.
much more to the world. No one talks about the Khmer Rouge, the Opium Wars, the Kuwaiti oil conflict, or what has been happening in the
The
Middle
Middle
East. No
East.
one talks. It's crazy. There's so many
Hmm.
things have happened in the world. No one talks about what happened in Cuba, Fidel Castro. No one talks about these things
Yeah.
in school. You got to learn this thing now. Now you got to watch a documentary on Netflix or watch Narcos and then go on Google and say, "Acha,
Oh yeah.
aisa bhi hua."
Or dude,
You know?
one thing which has been really pissing me. So once I did that solo travel, I realized like history in a country is important, and also having some level of democratic
Yes.
stability is important. And then I looked at
Yes.
what Indira Gandhi did in the 70s, right? And the late
Mm.
70s, where she
Before you and my time. Before you and my time. We went around
yeah, but
with it.
I found out about like she basically set up an emergency, hijacked all our constitutional processes, put people in jail, amended the
Nasbandi Drive, right?
yeah.
Of Sanjay
She
Gandhi.
put the word
Yeah.
socialist in our constitution.
Oh
We
dear.
didn't have that word. My
Mm.
point was, it got me enraged about some shit that happened, and it got me a little bit more protective about the basics of democracy, which no textbook ever taught me. The only time I've learned this is only through experience, talking to a whole bunch of Americans, and how they, to a fault, to a very level, they are actually free. They're like, screw this. We don't need the government to fuck with us. We want democracy, and we want our ability to choose our representatives above all else, because we've laid down so many lives over hundreds of years. That's a history that you can learn
Yeah,
from, man. How's your mic doing, bro?
of course. Mike's doing excellent. I was just wondering if are you getting my voice all good?
Yeah, I am getting your voice perfectly. It's fine. I've been getting your voice consistently. There's been not much of an issue.
No, what you're saying is so relevant. I mean, not just in the American context, but I think now people now this term that I've been hearing, the woke generation.
Hmm.
Everyone is so woke
Oh,
generation. Everyone wants to talk, but it talk is cheap. Shivam. I say very often, what are your actions? What are you doing? Like you can scream from a rooftop, respect me because I am a woman. But say, all right, what have you done that's respect worthy? Have you ever done something? Have you done community outreach? Have you taken your
yeah,
academics seriously? Take care of your family? Have you taken care of your body and your
yeah,
health? Are you constantly upgrading yourself?
yeah,
Are you a opinion leader in industry? Are you kind to your
yeah,
partner? Are you nurturing towards your
yeah,
environment? If you haven't done any of this, why should your womanhood be a passport only for to gain respect?
yeah,
We are defined by our deeds and our results. So if you have results to prove that you are worthy of respect, sure, we can worship you as an organism on this
yeah.
planet. The same respect I would extend to a squirrel or a sparrow, I can extend to you. Nothing wrong. I'm
Yeah,
not going to try to trample
that's
you.
true.
Peace be with you. You're on your
Yeah,
path. I'm on mine. But because I'm a woman, therefore respect me. Therefore,
nah.
your gender doesn't qualify you for extra privileges.
And that
All
really,
right, you'll get
and that's super annoying,
yeah.
man,
That you
because people use qualifiers. So like, this is something which really pisses me off. People say,
this is not that. This I mean, without beyond getting pissed off, I think it's childish to expect that your gender earns you
yeah,
privileges to be treated a certain way. Like, don't be a child. If you prove yourself
yeah,
worthy, if you compete on an even fighting field, then you will get what's due to you over time.
hmm.
If you play your cards right. Sorry, you were saying
Right.
something.
No, so I mean, the two things. So first, for one, people use qualifiers, man. So basically, people say, um, as a person of color, or as a brown person living in the US, or as a woman living in, or as a X and Y Z person, you need to listen to my opinion. Well, no, I'm going to listen to your opinion because you're a human being, and I listen to everybody's opinions. But if you
Yes,
believe that your opinion has some kind of precedence over mine because of your identity, that's a very messed up notion, man. I don't want to mess with that.
absolutely. Your opinion will hold water based on the strength of your argument, based on the facts you present, based on how eloquently you can debate those
Yeah,
facts, based on your ability to negotiate through a solution, based on the kind of information
yeah,
you bring to light. based on how respectfully you present that information without being adamant or without being pushy.
Yeah.
That is what would make me want to respect you, not your gender or the color of your skin
Yeah.
or the fact that your marriage didn't work out. You understand
Yeah.
me?
On the flip side, though, I do get their point. I do realize that there are certain inequalities in society. You see what I'm saying? So there are
Of
certain.
course, there are. We have a long history of that in all countries, whether it's with the black people in the United
Hmm.
States, with the civil rights movement. You see a movie like The Green Book as well,
Hmm.
where they've shown that. It's so disturbing that despite being a musician, just because he's a black musician, he's not allowed to eat a meal at the restaurant where he will be
That sucks.
performing as a guest of honor. It's so horrible and disturbing that scene. Um, but that's because there have always been bullies within systems. So you could say organizationally mandated bullying,
Yeah.
or there have been solo bullies who operate like free radicals. So, and that's how society has always been. There have been,
Yeah.
lions and
It's a
lambs,
good
as
point,
they
man.
say.
Yeah. Sometimes people will be a
But
bully irrespective of like where they come from. It's just that's just the people like that's just their kind of bent of personality.
that's the choice they have made. That's what makes them feel powerful. That's what makes them feel worthy.
Hmm.
That's their qualifier to justify their life and existence to themselves. Because I'm a bully, therefore I can get what is accrued to me, what I deserve. Therefore I will continue down this path of a bully and, sort of try to make good with whatever I can in terms of being this
Yeah.
hostile individual.
And a lot of the people who have kind of been bullied in different ways, because bullies take different kinds of forms, they're usually
Right?
like trying, because a lot of these bullies get privileges from society. They get
That's right.
they get rewarded by status. They get rewarded by with resources and things like that. And
Well, you know the saying, right?
yeah,
That power corrupts, but
absolute
absolute
power
power
corrupts.
corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, man, definitely, and that definitely holds true for bullies, right? And a lot of these movements from s- people who haven't been like people who've been bullied all their lives seems to be to me like a way for them to kind of equalize the playing field by completely
Okay.
taking away from who they think are the bullies. So they'll be like, you know what,
Hmm.
I don't have anything because I'm a nice person, I'm a good person. You have everything because you bullied. Did they? I mean, first of all, some of these people are bullies, but not all of them, right?
True.
You gotta accept that.
You can't
You can't
generalize.
generalize. So you can't like create like radical upheaval based on those notions. But that kind of radical upheaval is getting more, and the notion of that radical upheaval is getting more and more prevalent in modern society.
Hmm. Oh well, you'll have radical factions in every possible institution as
Yeah,
well. Even within the same political party and within the same religion,
yeah,
you will have the radical faction and you'll have the slightly more moderate.
yes,
You'll have the traditionalists, and then you'll have the new age faction. So I
mm,
mean, that's how it is. People want to break free and pretend like they know more than the other faction.
yeah, man,
I suppose this happened when we were living in caves as well. My cave bigger than yours.
yeah,
My cave big has a bigger fire.
right,
I got a bigger I've got a bigger deer which is going to feed my
mm,
family. Or I have more resources or I have better tools.
yeah,
So that kind of grandstanding and that kind of sort of comparison
yeah,
became a inevitable part of surviving and sort of uh, you know getting one up over the neighbor,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. And
Oh well.
as I just feel like if someone one ups you, like if supposing you're getting someone who one ups you, at least what I try to do, and it's very tough for me to do as well, but at least what I try to do is learn from them. It's tough. It's really
Why
tough,
not,
man.
right? Learn from your competition.
Yeah,
Accept that you're not going to be the best at everything
yeah,
at all times. The smartest man might not be the most good looking.
yeah,
The most good looking man may not be living in the country with the best economic
yes,
policies. The guy living in the country with the best economic policies may not have the most supportive family. The
right,
guy with the most supportive family may not have the most robust bank account balance,
Yeah.
and the guy with the most amount of money on his bank account balance might be not having good health.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, there's a dark side to everything. I mean, not dark side, but there's a downside to every success
There's a flip
story.
side. Yeah, absolutely.
There's a flip side to everything. Additionally, there's like, it also depends on who's around you. For example, most of the circles that I was in a certain place, I was probably the top dog.
Mm.
Now, the thing is, when I transfer into a different space,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to find myself with people who are better than me. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. If you keep getting better, you're going to get into a group of people that are better than you. It's going to happen. And at that point in time, like I was like, damn, these guys are so good. Happened here in my coursework, so I was like, dude, these guys are so on it. I thought I was on it, but these people are like just 100% there and giving their 500% to everything that they're doing. This is amazing. I should learn from this. But the initial response, but initially when that started to happen, I was like, wow, dude, are these guys, like, when I started, I was like, are these guys performing better than me? Like, because midway through the coursework, I was like, oh shit, dude, these guys are, there's the real, these guys are definitely doing more than what I'm doing. I was like, there's something there.
The
Like,
indexing, that indexing begins in your mind.
yeah, like, oh my God. And then I was like, oh, wait. So then I have two reactions. Like, one, my first reaction is saying, wait, I got to justify how I'm doing more. And then I was like, but then over time, I've developed the second response, which is actually, let's evaluate. Let's see let's see if in reality I'm doing more or if the other person's doing more and more on it. And very often in this case, I was like, no, these guys are dunking on me. They're doing way better.
Well, why compare yourself, man? You just up your game regardless of
So for me,
who is doing what.
For me personally, it's always been this thing where I don't like not knowing. So I don't like that I don't know something. If supposing you tell me, bro, you don't know this, I won't get, like, usually people get pissed off at the other person for pointing out that, shit, you don't know. Like, why did you point out that I don't know it? I'm embarrassed. I don't respond with embarrassment. I respond with, like, why the fuck didn't I realize this in the first place? Right?
Yeah. Why did I concede this?
Yeah, why did I concede this? Like, what went wrong? And
that's right.
And that shit, like, really messes with me. So it really messes with me. I'm like, how did I not know this, man? I should have known this. And then I try to figure out.
As Aristotle says, we are what we do repeatedly. So it's really about choices and habits.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't be so hard on yourself. You're a smart, resourceeful individual.
Yeah, bro,
man.
Definitely.
And you were a lot skinnier when I first met you.
Yeah.
And I see you.
Yeah, it's all the chub, dude.
Nice, robust-looking young man. You're a few years younger to me, so I can say that.
Yeah, man.
So, what are you still in your 20s or what?
No, man, I'm in my 30s now.
Really now? How old are you?
I'm 30. Square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done, bro.
Yeah.
Well, I got 4 years on you, which is 4 years I'm not. I wish I could go back to being younger, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
We your beard turns white and your life turns gray. Like my t-shirt.
Oh, yeah. But you're doing pretty well for yourself, man. You got your own place now.
I'm all right. I'm happy where I am. I'm happy.
So
I make enough money to afford the things I like.
That's nice, man.
Which is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing you, like, you're probably going to get the latest version of the Xbox or the PS. Which one are you going to get? The PS or the Xbox?
No, I already have a PS4 with 19 unfinished titles, including some greats like The Witcher 3 and a few more gems hidden there.
I think they transfer, man.
I'm not gonna.
They transfer.
Well, I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah. Like, I mean,
let's see.
Do you have a CD, or do you have like them on CDs, or?
Well, I have all of them on CDs mostly.
Yeah.
I mean, like Blu-ray discs. So yeah.
All right, but just want to know, how much time do I have you for, man?
Well, I think what time is it now? I think we could start winding it up because we've been chatting for 1 hour 34
Sounds good,
minutes.
man. Let's
So
let's spend a few minutes.
we can.
Let's spend a few minutes talking about video games, man. I'll talk about video games with you. Dude, so is
Well, video games are therapeutic.
to that
I'm one of
therapy.
those psychotherapists who always says that don't blame your kids for playing video games. Well, if you can get addicted to even orange juice, and then that's not good for you as well. If you have only orange juice, stop drinking water.
So you play video games,
So I
right?
mean, I do play now and then. Not addicted to it, of course. It's a good escape. It's a fantasy. It's a fantastical world. You get to role play. You get to be a mob boss in the 1960s, or you can be a cowboy in the Western Outback. You can be Spider-Man, Batman. You can be
Oh yeah, those role playing
assassin
games
for
get you,
hire.
man.
Yeah, I mean, you can be so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think to some extent, all of us live in little fantasies that either we create or that we subject ourselves to. And there's nothing wrong in
No,
that
not
because
at
I
all.
think our brain too requires a bit of a break sometimes, isn't it? Because this world can be overwrought with things like logic and having to do the right thing at the right age.
Yeah.
So I mean, who really gets to decide how old you are before you get married? No one. It's about you and who you meet and what you want and what you see. It's really about your personal journey, and no one gets to decide whether that journey takes place at a certain speed or not.
Yeah.
Video games are about journey as well.
Yeah.
Only this time you are filling someone else's journey, helping them live out their hero's journey or their prophecy, which is fun in a vicarious way, so to speak. But I mean,
Which ones do you play, man?
well, I'm currently playing Red Dead Redemption
Ooh,
2,
that's why you're talking
Spider-Man.
about westerns and shit.
Oh yes, indeed. Number of deers I have
nice.
killed in that game.
Oh,
My God. It's vicarious and it's silly and it's fun. And
it is fun.
It's enjoyable. And
Yeah.
it is what it is.
What I like about the whole Rockstar game series is like their storyline. You can actually do it like you're watching. Like there's no skill involved. Like I mean, there's a certain skill involved, but it's not much.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just go through it and like
the cinematic.
Exactly.
It's very cinematic.
Like it's a movie, which is amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Highly cinematic.
Yeah. But have you met a lot of people who are addicted to video games too?
Kids nowadays who come for therapy, their mothers are worried about addiction. But that's because their parents may not have cultivated other interests in their child.
Yeah.
Like for me, reading, writing, these were cultivated in me by my mother, who knew that I should have a very well-rounded personality with, to be articulate. She sent me for every possible class that a child can attend.
Yeah.
So that even if I don't take to something, at least I know what it's like.
Yeah.
So that kind of widens your palette for life, which I think is important.
Yeah.
So yeah, addiction is a thing, but I mean, it's a labyrinthian topic.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you more on the lines of I was about to take this what I was about to share was our common shared interest in video games, but it seems to me that you're more concerned with how people like the dangers of video games in terms of how it can be a tool to escape from reality, and that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
That's definitely a thing, dude.
It is a thing, but anything can potentially be dangerous if overdone, in my opinion. If samosa can be dangerous, if you only eat samosas for 30 days in a row, I assure you your cholesterol levels are going to jump, and so is your waistline is going to bulge.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you should ban samosas or people go on the streets and saying no one eats samosas again. So similarly, a video game in excess to constantly nurture only a fantasy realm is in a way escaping from your daily responsibilities.
Yeah, and especially some of these games that have been like designed by people to make it addictive, right?
Yeah, but it's a commercial venture, isn't it? More tokens, more coins, more level ups, power ups, especially online games.
Yeah, man.
You want to get best pack, you want to save face in front of your guild or your clan or your.
Dude.
So that these are things that we commonly see.
Yeah, I play FIFA a lot. And so here's the thing which I probably didn't know about FIFA. I'm guessing you didn't because most people don't. Is FIFA actually like they make a certain X million dollars a year on sales of the game.
Right.
They make 3 times that. They make
Mm-hmm.
3 times that on in-game purchases of packs. So they make
Yes, absolutely. The packs and the level ups will get.
$1.5 billion dollars people make. They make a year on average on just selling packs. They sell it to
Yep.
kids with the notion that if they spend on these packs, which randomize players, they'll get the best players in the games and they can beat their friends. That's the notion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of like I've spoken to some of the children who buy these packs, and they're like, yeah, I just took $50 from my mom, and I $50 from my mom, and I'm using that money to kind of just get a pack because I might get something good out of it, and things like that. And this is like economic exploitation, man. You're exploiting kids.
Well, that is capitalism for you.
Yeah, man.
There
UK's
you
banned
go.
it.
You're sitting in the United States,
Yeah, dude.
the heart of capitalist
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, there's capitalism and there's certain levels of
the epicenter.
responsibility, man. This is kind of irresponsible. But
Well,
anyway, I just want to thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for sitting with me. It was a lot of fun. It was, I mean, more than anything else, it was catching up with you. So that was awesome.
I loved it, Shivam. We had, we still have a lot. We talk about some things off camera, of course, as well. Once you stop recording,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute pleasure. And, especially to have a chat on so many things that don't necessarily only talk about the world of psychotherapy, but also about video games, etc. It's been a real pleasure. What a fabulous way to spend a Saturday evening
Yeah.
talking to an old friend over these things. And of course, once you upload this video to YouTube, I will share it left, right, and center, and hopefully
100%.
people will sit through the 1 hour 40 minutes
Yeah.
of this that we have spent with each other.
Yeah, man, definitely. I hope so too. And that's why it's called Shivam and Friends podcast, man. It's just me sitting with a bunch
Love
of friends.
it.
See you,
Oh,
man.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you're listening up to this point, love you guys.